How's that roll?
This is only my
Up on the hill. Yeah.
Or not. The meeting to order for 23rd of June, 2026. Basically a council session on starting the budgetary process. And as far as I know, I think we have Matt, you're going to present tonight?
Yes.
Okay. The floor is yours, sir. And Councilman Lawrence is watching from home. So.
Okay. All right, so we're going to begin the budget process. Well, we've already begun the budget process. I've met with department heads and we've discussed their needs for the upcoming year. And we've used some of the information that they've given us to prepare or update our forecast that we've already showed you earlier this year. So those are fairly up to date. We've still got a few capital items and others that are going to be built into it. But for the purpose of tonight, I just want to talk about what your assessed valuation information revealed about the upcoming year and some different mill levy scenarios and what you choose to adopt when you finally do adopt budget will produce in the way of tax revenue. So first of all, we'll go over the assessed valuation estimate. As you can see here, the box in gray there that says total on the left-hand side about halfway down, that is the total assessed valuation for the city. The other thing you should look at is the number 3, another gray box there. That's the revenue neutral rate. That is the rate which you would have to adopt per Kansas budget law to not have to go through the R&R process. You'd have to basically levy that mill levy, which would hold your essentially hold your property tax revenue flat from the prior year, and then you would not have to go through the R&R process to adopt budget. You'd be able to adopt it directly, but you know, I'll show you here in a moment what that would do to your mill levy if you, or to your revenue generation if you did that. We'll talk a little bit more about this here in a moment because I'm going to show a comparison of this year to last year. But the next part here, this is the actual tax rates levied for the 26 budget, because you adopted last year. And the way it works is, you know, the final valuations don't actually, you know, what you get in June of every year is what we're showing you here is actually just an estimate. The final numbers don't actually get figured out until all the tax bills have gone out and been paid. So that's why every year they update us with the updated mill levy. So, and that's what you're seeing here. So the mill levy you adopted for general fund 29.155. You see the others, including the library, your bonds and interest fund, and the cemetery. And then the total mill levy for last year would have been 41.084. Tonight, we're just going to talk about general fund, but because for the most part, I'm going to be proposing that we hold the other mill levies fairly flat, with the exception of the library, only because there was an issue with the RHID, the way that it was handled when budget was adopted last year. So they were shortchanged about $14,000 this year. And so, but when we get to that later in the year, we'll see that it's actually going to be, basically we're going to be putting their mill levy back to what it's been before and just making up that shortfall to get them adopted. So it's not going to be a very large increase at all, actually, when we get to it. And then you see that number there, the final assessed valuation, that's what I was talking about. We get sort of this estimate in June, and then later in the year, they actually figure out what the final total assessed valuation is, and that's what the final assessed for 26 or for technically for 25 would have been, as well as the final for the personal property and and they're also doing the final for the uh, neighborhood revitalization districts, the NRPs that were subject to that are subject to rebates. Not that you're going to be rebating all of them, but that's the amount of property that is subject to NRP rebate. And so here's where we compare everything looking this year to last year. The most important numbers here are going to be that bolted out middle line there, the total. That's the total real estate, personal property, and state assessed utilities that are taxable. And so you see that the valuation has increased from the prior year, 4.43%. That is a very modest number. Good thing is it is technically above the current MCI, so current kind of sort of inflation for municipal governments that you're concerned with. So it's not the kind of double-digit growth you'd like to see in this valuation, but it's still positive, which is itself a positive. So you see you're a little bit more in new improvements for 26 than the prior year. That essentially is talking about essentially new structures built on already present real estate. The personal property amount went down, but again, that's fairly small. And real property with a changed use, that's something that's basically gone from one category to another, like ag to residential, that kind of thing. So you see there the total ad valorem property tax used for the R&R calculation for 26 was about 10,888,000 less than for 25. That's because of the $500,000 reduction that the council used when they adopted budget last year. And then the very bottom line is what we're going to come back to at some point. I want you to look at that 2026 value of $1 is just under $60,000. So every mill that you increase your general fund mill levy by when you adopt is going to generate about another $60,000 in revenue. And that becomes important when we start looking at what your ending fund balance will look like at the end of 2027. So the first scenario we're going to talk about is this is the mill levy in general fund. And this assumes that we're going to keep all the other levies for the other funds essentially where they were for 2026. We're going to increase I'm probably going to be presenting a final budget that increases your mill levy for your bond and interest fund by a little under a little under $500,000, just because it's what probably will be required with the debt service schedule you have for next year. We're going to again small increase to the library just because because of the issues we had this year with their valuation. And then we're going to hold the mill levy for the cemetery flat because the expenses don't change very much for cemetery operations. So assuming those mill levies stay essentially the same, this is what the impact would be to the general fund if we are going to adhere to the R&R policy, meaning that the dollar amount of property tax generated is no more than what was generated for this year. And so what that would do is you can look at all the numbers here, and you see the one that we're talking about is going to be that property tax line, the top line there. You look all the way to the right at the 2027 forecast. That would end up being a year-end fund balance of $60,000, which is down from what we're anticipating ending this year at, which is about $206,000. So that's quite a decrease. You're going to be spending more than you bring in, and it's going to significantly drop that year-end fund balance down, which is moving in the wrong direction. The next one, and all the rest of these are going to not adhere with the R&R policy, so they will require the additional public hearing and adoption for the budget. Typically, those can be done on the same night, and I believe you've always done that in the past. I know you did last year. So what this would do is again, this is holding the mill levy to the exact same mill levy that you adopted this year for general fund. So uh, essentially adopting you're going to see some increase over last year's or this year's property tax revenue because you are adopting above the R&R rate, and since you're adopting the same level and you had a little over 4% growth, you will have a little bit more additional revenue. It turns out to be about just under $40,000. And that leaves you with an ending fund balance of 93,000, so still below. And spoiler alert, all of these are going to still be somewhat below the ending fund balance we're estimating for 2026. This here, the third scenario we're going to talk about, this is assuming you put back the $500,000 that was taken off last year from your mill levy. So you get back to your mill levy from 2025 adoption or the 2025 budget. And again, this, puts a little bit more back in than the previous scenarios, but you're still, about 80,000 below what was adopted or what we're anticipating the ending fund balance being for 2026. And then the last scenario, this increases the general fund mill levy up to 31. That's basically an additional 1.845 mils. And you see there that you get very close. You're about $3,000 less than what we're anticipating for ending fund balance for 2026. But again, this is not getting you closer to your year-end minimum reserve, which is, again, the minimum reserve that we would like to see is 15% of total expenditures. So we're, still positive, still fairly close to where we were. But again, you're still not where you were at the end of 25. You're still not going to be where you were. You're going to be very close to where we're going to end 2026. But without additional revenue going in, I don't anticipate that you'll be able to grow that fund balance next year without more than a 1.8 mil increase. So again, that's just kind of what we want. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty of what those numbers mean as we go through the next budget workshop. We're going to have the department heads come in and present their budgets that'll show where some of these increases are coming from. And we're also going to just talk about other things that we know we may be able to cut out spending for this year to help with that fund balance. So some stuff we've already gone over in the Budget and Finance Committee. So there'll be other things that come into play, but I just kind of want to give you the broad strokes of what the valuation increase, and even though it was modest, still an increase, which is still good, but it's not going to be it's not going to fix it on its own. There's still going to have to be some adjustments done to increase that valuation or to increase that ending fund balance.
So whether we increase the mill levy, we increase property tax, or we find places to cut. Either way, we're trying to get to 100, about 110. 110,000, is that about right? The mill levy 60. You said it was 1.1? 1.8. So
1.845 additional mills over what was adopted for the current year.
So 120,000 would be 2 mills.
2 mills would be about 120,000. Yes.
Yeah, about that. That's what we're looking for.
Right.
We're looking for cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, we got those evaluation notices in the last couple of weeks, and we plugged the numbers in. I just wanted to make sure you guys saw that before we started getting into the weeds on the budget, what the reality is, what we're trying to do for this budget this year. And again, I don't think it's to a place where we're talking about personnel cuts or anything like that, but it's still. And the positive thing is too, you still got positive valuation growth, which is a good thing, which not everybody can say that. So.
Okay, this is my favorite question that I always ask, and I'm going to put you in the hot seat. For people listening at home, our community who's tuned into this, who I encourage as a community to take part in this and to watch this process go along, because these people are going to sit up here and work very, very hard to try to make things work. Boil this down in a minute or less what you would tell the citizens of this community in regards to what we're addressing last night. Are we lean? Do we need to, are we so fat, so to speak, using that term, that we can just do what we want? Or do we need to cut more from the bone? And I know that's a decision we make here, but in your opinion?
My opinion is operate where you will be comfortable with known cost increases that you've already experienced, plus anticipated cost increases you know you're going to have just based on, standard economics. I don't think anything less than a 2 mil increase at this stage is going to allow you to operate comfortably without having to worry about, emergency situations. I mean,
Okay.
you're just not, you do not have a reserve to operate that is going to, you know, make any difference as far as what the rating agencies, et cetera, are looking at. And again, you don't have a poor rating. You don't have a good rating, but you don't have a poor rating either. You have a, you know, uh, you have a rating that's going to continue to get your debt sold. You're going to be able to continue to operate and do the projects you want to do. But again, it's just, it's lean.
Okay.
I'll say that you're operating very lean. You're operating on, closer to the edge than anybody who does this professionally would be comfortable with, including your city administrator, I'm assuming. So,
And to make sure I understand this correctly, too, because bear with me, this is really the first time going through a budget with this city. I've been through other budgets with other municipalities and things. But um, what if we don't raise mills? What if we say, let's try to cut and become even leaner, more lightweight?
well, the things you're going to be sacrificing in that case are going to be things like, timely replacement of equipment, vehicles. You're going to be probably, going to have to look at potential. And again, I'm not making any recommendation right
No,
now.
I know, but I'm
Talking about the
asking
kind of-
for your
Yeah,
opinion.
talking about the kind of things that people do. You're going to look at freezing any sort of, cost of living adjustments, merit pay increases. You may have to seek a different, level of employee health insurance and things like that. So they're, they're paying for a less expensive plan, which is going to put more, or even, putting more of the premium cost on the employee than what your current split is, which I'm not exactly sure of what that is, but typically the employee pays a smaller portion of the premium than the employer does. And if you shifted more of that to them, that's another way. But again, no one of these things is going to do it all. If you're talking about not increasing your mill levy, you're going to have to do multiple things like this, which again is, for a for a 1 year thing. I mean, yeah, it's, it might get you through it another year, but you do this kind of thing year to year, you're talking about serious morale issues and other, you basically just not operating with your employees are not going to be operating with the full support that they need to do their jobs just because, they're using older equipment that's past its useful life. They're not getting regular raises. So they're, going to be, probably looking for other employment or whatever else. So again,
And I don't want the council to think, or the citizens to think, that I'm this soothsayer of doom and the world's collapsing and coming to an end. I just want to have as much information for myself as to
yeah.
what we can and cannot do, what the future might look like or might not look like. So that's all. So
Yeah.
thank you, sir. I
The thing
appreciate it.
is, in a perfect world, you're seeing 10% growth a year. And so you're able to eat up whatever your additional costs are with that valuation growth. So you're able to maintain a flat mill levy. But again, you're not there. I mean, and that's assuming that we have a fairly flat uh, inflationary trend as well, which we obviously don't. We've seen that go up repeatedly. I mean, hopefully it's flattening out now, but again, there's no promise that that's going to, stay flatter. Other costs we've seen continue to go up. Everybody I deal with is higher fuel costs, and you all see it at the pump when you pay. Again, this is not a doomsday situation, but it's taking baby steps by doing a couple of mill increases.
And help me here, council. Our budget and how we work it reflects the rate we received on our bonds.
Yeah, so.
Whether we get a favorable, is that correct?
Yeah, so your
Okay.
your bond rating is determined by several things, but one thing that they look at that we got hit on somewhat recently was the fact that our general fund reserve was not within policy of what we set at 15%, and that's what hit our bond. So we went from an A plus to A, something like that.
Mhm.
It wasn't huge.
I think, well, so,
We ran the numbers on it. And
yeah, it was they didn't change anything to the short-term rate, but the long-term rate went down to, I think, a AA2. So it's not bad. Again,
Right.
that people are going to buy that.
Right.
bond. It's just, you're not getting the optimum rate. And with the rating agencies, yes, they're going to ding you for not adhering to your own policy, but still they're looking at cash anyway,
Right.
no matter what your policy is. And they want to see a certain amount of cash in reserve just for your overall operations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And not to preach, but I just want to remind everybody that we're talking about mills here. So 2.5 mils is 1/4 of 1%. That's what the amount is, because mills are thousands. So 1/4 of 1%, 0.25% is all we're talking about increasing. And assuming you were doing a 2.5 mil increase. So it's not nothing, and it is definitely a tax increase in every sense of the word. But again, just want to keep that in perspective.
So all these numbers that we've discussed, the amount of mills needed to get us to a comfy place, are based on the estimate that we put forward.
Yeah.
And so I want to poke on that estimate for just a second. So where did we put the municipal cost index? Where did we set that at when we were estimating?
So municipal cost index, we are making an assumption on it because it has not been updated in over a year.
That's why I'm asking.
We're still at about 3%, 2.8 to 3% is
Okay.
kind of in the wiggle room there. Now, certain revenue sources we're gonna estimate more just based on their performance. Like, sales tax is going to be, we're using 3% basically for sales tax. And then, other things are not going to change as much. But again, primarily right now, we're just looking at what the kind of known real cost increases we've seen so far this year. And we're taking that into account, projecting it forward. So, and again, these are not anywhere close to final numbers. This is just based on the forecast that we do periodically throughout the year, that I'm actually going to start doing it monthly, just so it's always up to date for budget purposes or whatever else. But, as the departments come in with their individual budget presentations, the stuff's going to change, and as the discussion continues, we'll move things around as well. So, because I already know that we've got at least one or two personnel changes that are going to affect the fund's bottom line, because we're swapping things around based on where they get paid from. So that'll be taken into account as well, things like that. So.
I'm trying to think. So if we had, what bonds do we have coming off here in the next 5 years? If you can remember off the top of your head, I think I can think of one.
Well, I believe it's a water bond, final payments this year, I believe.
Okay.
So but again, that's not going to affect mill levy.
Well, none of it came out of the general fund.
No, that's all. I believe that's all using water. Don't hold me to that. I'll make sure. And if it's not directly from water, it's through a transfer. But again,
Like the public works building, for example, when that started to come off, I mean, that was general fund, because that couldn't have been funded from any utility. It had to have been general fund. So I don't know if it's like,
well, so just because it's not paid directly through the utility doesn't mean it's not transferred to the debt service fund because I know your utilities do transfer to the debt service fund. So,
and the reason I'm asking obviously is because if you can forecast some trimming in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe you don't have as much of a long-term problem as you're thinking.
Well, I know that you have something rolling off this year, but you just passed a temp note. And so you're going to have more coming on again as well. So, I mean, there's, in the short term, you may be able to do some cost saving through, uh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
omitting bond payments. But again, you also don't want to be shortchanging those transfers anyway, because you're just putting whatever fund that far behind
Right.
to make those payments.
You said you projected sales tax at 3% growth?
That's what we use for the forecasters. Yes. Forecasting. And again, that's for the city sales tax. The county share sales tax has been fairly flat so far this year. So we may need to update that when we get to the budget. And again, I'm not asking you to solve this tonight, by the way.
Oh,
And I get that. And again, there are going to be changes to what you've just seen throughout the budget process. So
yeah.
I basically want to let you know the grand picture of what it's probably, we're going to have to do something unless you want to have another year of reduced year-end fund balance. I can't find the debt chart that I've been using. I have it, just not at the front of my screen right now.
For us, yeah. No, I just didn't know if you had questions or.
Gathering information.
So if we were to sell a building, that help?
If you were to sell a building for $1 million and not spend any of it, sure.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, yeah, I mean, it would
We
definitely
have,
help.
unfortunately, the bullpen
Yeah.
is
well,
leaving in the end of the year.
okay, well, I mean,
Sold that building.
if you sell it and agree not to spend it on anything else and just keep it reserved in general fund, it will be a short-term, way to build that
I mean, it would at least be a way not to have to raise the mill levy on our
Yep.
citizens.
for this year.
Yeah.
It's not gonna fix it going forward. Your cost increases are gonna go up every year, and if that bottom line doesn't change, you're gonna see, next year you recover a little bit of it, but right after that, you're gonna start seeing it go back down again, unless you all of a sudden start,
Well, but then we have another lease that's up in a year. And then if we sold that building at the end of that lease, then it could get, like Corey is saying, it could get us through.
What are you realistically thinking about selling for these properties? Like, how much do you think you'll generate from it?
I don't know.
We have the estimates. We have the appraisals.
I mean, I would think the building attached to City Hall would probably go for at least over 100,000, if not more than that.
Well, I mean, I again, that is not going to get your reserve up to 15%.
No, but it would.
You get close
It would get us closer.
for a year, and then if you sold more, you could continue to do that.
That would at least for this year, it would solve you wanting the mill increase.
Yeah.
I'm going to bridge here. So I kind of get what he's saying. I've voiced that I don't necessarily support selling off city buildings and city property for short-term band-aids. But I do catch the gist of what I think you're saying, and that maybe it's what you're saying. It's definitely what I'm saying, is that yes, it does not solve the long-term problem as every number sits right now.
Mm.
But if we anticipate inflation cooling off, then that's a different lever that affects the math down the road. So short-term Band-Aid may not get you through with the numbers that are set now, but a short-term Band-Aid may get you through if this crazy inflation calms down.
Just still look at the fact that I'm still showing a reduction in ending fund balance with a 1.8 million or 1.8 mil increase. So yeah, that still means that, even with a mill increase, that's, 1.8 mils is not nothing. That's basically 1.3 mils over what you had the year before last, or before this. That's not nothing, but it's still not going to be enough on its own to move your ending fund balance in the right direction.
Right.
So yes, I mean, inflation could slow down. I still don't see that being enough on its own to increase your fund balance to a level that would cover that 15% minimum reserve.
But if we take what Corey said, what Jay's saying, and we go through and let's say we do raise the mill levy and our inflation rate slows down, we kind of get some breathing room. Maybe we sell a building or two, throw some money back in general fund. We could always decrease that mill levy, correct? Go back down.
I think
Unless you have enough valuation growth to make up that loss of
That's-
revenue.
Okay.
the only reason the mill levy went down last year was a math problem. It was the mill levy changed the assessed valuation changed the mill levy.
Okay.
And we had to lower it to make math to stay revenue neutral.
But we didn't stay revenue neutral.
It was just to make
Yeah,
exactly
But we
right.
we offset it. By,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you're projecting several years down the road and doing what ifs everywhere. I mean nobody wants to raise anything, especially with the increases we've seen in the last year.
One-time injections of cash are great, but they're not a permanent solution.
And I want to echo what Corey's also saying here. I mean, we've hit our community and citizens up, even with my short-term rate increases and things like that. And that, I don't really want to go back and hit them up again. But my thing is that, when I'm trying to look for the health of the city 4 and 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, to be in a better position to kind of make sure we have a little bit of flexibility there to handle things. I mean, if we do this mill increase, does that get us healthier, so to speak, in your opinion? And again, I know this is just a broad
In
overview.
order to move in the right direction this year, we're going to have to talk cuts and or mill levy increase.
Okay.
Because like I showed you, with a 1.8 mil increase, based on, everything staying essentially where it's at now, that's just going to get you back to where we anticipate ending with fund balance this year, which is still going to be, 30% less than where.
So to paraphrase Susan Pitts, who was on a committee here, not a committee, but at least to meet the community here this last fall, she made a comment that Baldwin City is going to be facing some very hard economic choices coming up this next 4 years. And this is the first one we're going to meet, right? What she predicted is coming true.
Yeah.
So
Well, but it's economics.
We all knew it was.
So we're talking about a mill levy right now. Why? Because growth is slow. Okay. Well, growth's slow because inflation's too high and nobody's spending. Okay. Well, that's economics. So then give and take, and then it comes down. And there's no doom and gloom here. I mean, you can't make assumptions that well, given the pace that we're at now, 5 years down the road, yeah, you're going to have to raise the mill levy if you're still at that same pace. But you kind of can't talk in those terms. You can talk the next year, 2 years, even sometimes 3. But once you're getting to 5 years, you can't predict any of it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that a short term solution isn't off the table necessarily when you think in those terms. It is when you say, well, these are the numbers now, and these are how they're going to be forever, and we're screwed, and but that's not how economics works. The inflation has to come down. You can't just keep going higher and higher with nobody buying anything. I'm just putting in perspective.
Oh, I completely understand. I still think that if the economy does improve, that alone is not going to be enough.
Sure.
But I mean, yes, you're not wrong.
And maybe you have, you're to your point, you're not going to fund the delta from one single source. You have to
But
get
again,
elsewhere.
you have to understand too, is I think like municipal finance director.
I know, I get it.
I,
No, the easy decision right here is how many mills do we need to be comfortable for? Well, okay, vote, go. That's the easy. But the hard work is trying to not as much as you have to, as much as you can.
Yeah, and let me say, I value your opinion, and I take everything you say seriously. It's just we're the fixers. We're the ones that have to.
well, I mean,
And
believe me, it is not just me standing up here saying more money, more money, more money.
no,
Oh no, we know.
yeah,
You're doing your job.
Ben has gone through and double checked my work and he's proposed other things that could be cut going forward. That's all going to get included when with the budget this year. So it's going to, but it's going to go against recommendations from department heads and everything else. And as well, probably recommendations, it's probably going to go against recommendations from Russ as well. So like I said, the whole purpose of tonight's exercise is to talk about the realities of where everybody's sitting and be prepared for the information that comes after this, because you're going to have to make some hard decisions. Probably very, very likely you're going to have to make some hard decisions. Like I said, I wish I could come up here and say, you got 10% guaranteed growth every year from now till Kingdom Come and you'll be just fine. But that's not good. I don't think that's going to be the case for a while.
Julie, you have comments or?
Nope.
Anything else? I think it's kind of like what Jay said. It's and what you're saying too. We kind of have what we look at, but it's up to us to make the decisions on what we're going to do and
Oh yeah.
not going to do, and how it affects the community. And we're the ones that make them. So.
All right.
Any other questions? Yes,
Sometimes we just adjourn. Sometimes we talk for another hour. Sometimes we.
I mean, if there's nothing else, then Jay, anything else, sir?
not that I can think of right now. No.
Peter?
I'll just leave it at one more thing. Just obviously I'm coming from a certain tone, and when people are getting the hurt put on them and have been for the last 2-3 years. Inflation's just been terrible. We've had to increase because of inflation, and I just think it is absolutely, and I think you'll agree, our absolute responsibility to do everything we can to keep from increasing as much as possible. And so, getting creative, putting some extra time to maybe come to some way of curtailing some of the hurt is our responsibility.
Agreed. Julie, you have anything?
Nope.
Then we are adjourned. I want to thank the department heads for showing up tonight. I appreciate it. Cliff, I would like about 5 minutes of your time. Just easy peasy. Do you have anything? Yeah.
No.
We're done.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your time, everybody.